So in normal Phantom Forces YouTuber fashion, it's coming to that time of year again where we all decide to make videos on what's going wrong with PF and our opinions on it. Both Strider and I believe Snowy have made videos. I apologize if anyone else recently has. I'm not aware of them, and I truthfully haven't really looked. I just saw Snowy's video and he talked about Strider, so here we are. So this is usually kind of my gig. I like to complain quite a lot. I like to offer my opinion where it's not needed, but you know, that's kind of the perks of being someone with a very small platform who gets to do these things. I am here to repeat some of the same issues with PF, however, some of them are a little bit different. Now, I know that I'm not going to go in the same order that they did, and I'm going to kind of spitball this off the top of my head as I usually do, because that's just how I do things around here. One of the main things that I think has become a more recent issue has become gun balancing, but not in the way that I've talked about it before. Gun balancing, as of recent times, in my opinion, has become very bland rather than big issues. You know, normally in the past, I come to you with this topic, and I have something along the lines of, this gun's busted, this gun's busted, like, can we please do something about it? Where that's not really the case now. Guns aren't as powerful as they once were, and I'm sure there still are some that are pretty strong that I'm just not remembering off the top of my head. But for the most part, my biggest issue now is that most of the guns are just the same. The kind of meta that has developed from gun balancing over the past little bit that I have come to understand, and like I said, I'm not as involved as usual. People like Ruby or Strider or people like them are much better off telling you kind of about the gun balancing situation because they actually pay attention. But the guns have become all the same. It's kind of followed the trend where everything went from, you know, well, I shouldn't say everything. A lot of guns went from being like 4-shot all range to being 5 to 4 shots, like kind of 4-shot closer range, 5-shot at distance. And that's become sort of the trend now, is that most of those are basically going the same route. And is that a bad thing? Not necessarily, but it also takes away any uniqueness from guns, in my opinion. You have guns that, you know, the easiest example, and I apologize if this is repetitive, but the easy example for me is the G36 or the L85. Those guns were 4-shot at all ranges for literally as long as I can remember. They've never changed. And the G36 has rightfully been nerfed throughout time and updated as it needed to be. There was a time where the G36 was simply just too strong for its own good, and it got nerfed, rightfully so. However, the L85 and G36 nerf kind of started a trend, in my opinion, where other guns are starting to follow suit, where even the new gun releases that we're getting are 4-shot close range, 5-shot at range. And that's not to say that's necessarily a bad thing, because how much more balancing can you really do beyond that point, I think is a major concern as well when you have to talk about this topic, is that, yeah, it may be consistently the same thing, but what else could you really do? Any more kind of high damage makes the guns a little too powerful. Any less damage makes them completely unusable. And that's kind of the middle ground, which then that comes on to the issue that we have like 200 guns on this game where things just obviously aren't going good anymore. Like there's too much to keep track of. There's too much to try to balance, and there won't be any creativity or uniqueness to these guns because we've taken away that potential aspect. But you follow up into things like, let's say, I guess the cheater issue lately. A lot of the major cheats have either stopped being updated or were patched. I don't know specifically what happened, but I think most people who have been playing PF as of like the past month or two could easily say that there's a lot less cheaters around than what there used to be. A lot less, like a very noticeable difference, which is fantastic. And I don't know whether to give the credit to stylists for potentially blocking those cheats, or maybe the developers of those cheats have just sort of given up on updating them. Nonetheless, the game is far more enjoyable than what it used to be. And the updates that have recently happened have caused a lot of issues with bugs, and you know, a buggy update is always a really big issue. It gives a lot of fuel to the fire for complaining, especially for us YouTubers, because we hate seeing it, especially when we feel like a lot of things could have been potentially avoided. But also remember, please, that none of us are like high-level programmers like the stylist guys are, so we come at it at a very kind of ignorant point of view, so take it with a grain of salt when we talk about those things. But the updates haven't been bad as of like the past year. However, they haven't been the best either. And then this is a consistent issue that I think I've been preaching on my channel for like the past 2.5 years maybe. PF is just sort of low on content. There's nothing that can really be done, and anything that I think a lot of people would have liked to see done, such as like quality of life updates, it's been so far gone at this point that there's just isn't excitement for them. One major thing I know Snowy brought up that I'd like to touch on as well is the keybinds, like custom keybinds. This game's 8 years old or something. Like, the fact that there isn't custom keybinds yet is truly a wild thing to me. While not everyone will get use out of that, I feel like it's something that definitely should help. I mean, for crying out loud, let's say you play Phantom Forces a lot and a key on your keyboard breaks, and let's say it's a shift key or something, you know, we'll use something really common, you know, shift to run or your C button to slide. Something on your keyboard breaks and you can't use those buttons, and you may not have the money to go buy a new keyboard or whatever the situation may be. You can't even like rebind keys. And I know there's outside programs you could do. You could do like auto hotkey and things like that. But like, this is such a basic thing for most games to have. Like, keybinds, in my ignorant view of coding, can't be that difficult, right? Or maybe it is. I don't know. But 8 years for us to not get something like that? Or like daily challenges or weekly challenges even. Things that we have been asking for years. Now, I don't know what the holdbacks are on those things, and I'm sure they might have touched on those in public, you know, a few times throughout the years, and I just simply don't remember what their response was. But could it be that difficult to make challenges? Something that incentivizes certain gameplay, something that incentivizes us not using the same guns. And while I sort of hate this concept, I'm going to use a more recent game of the new Call of Duty, where you have to use certain guns to unlock other guns kind of thing. I kind of hate it, but at the same point, it's really nice to see a diversity of guns. If you get into a lobby with like a bunch of high ranks on PF, chances are you're going to see the same like 10 to 15 guns, because those are the meta. And a meta is going to exist on any game no matter what. But there's nothing in this game that incentivizes you not using it. I just got called a Walmart Godstatus. That's wild. Nothing that incentivizes using different guns, and there's nothing that really makes you go out of your range when maybe that's something that could be good for the game. Like, I'm running a K7 right now just because, you know, it's really strong. It's a close range map. I can get away with doing this. But it's not like I have any reason to use anything else. Like, I don't have anything else to unlock, and I know longevity has always been a topic that any of us high rank players have made comments about, because once you get to a certain point, there is no reason to continue other than you just simply enjoy the game. And truthfully, I feel like Phantom Forces has always survived purely based off the fact that there isn't really any other similar FPS game that truly competes with it. As much as we have complaints about PF and as many issues as there has been over the years, PF is a really solid game for Roblox. Like, on an FPS level, insanely good. And there's no games that really rival that. I mean, you have something like Bad Business, but it just has such a different feel that it isn't for everyone. PF is, I think, on a general level, a bit more of an easier, well-made FPS to get into than other options. And it also has just a consistent player base. No matter what dumb decisions have been made over the years, PF has seemed to always hold, and I'll use like a ballpark number of, let's say, 7,000 concurrent players, at times peaking, you know, 15, 20,000. But for the most part, anytime you take a look at PF throughout history, it's usually probably hovering between 7 to 10,000, which is a really solid player base. And they're lucky that they have so many dedicated players. But if all of the high ranks just decided one day that they just don't care anymore, the new player income to Phantom Forces is not that high. Like, I don't think so many new players are coming in that it could hold up the game's popularity or even the value of the game at that point. And that's something that I wish was addressed long ago, but it just hasn't been. The longevity will always be an issue. I doubt they're ever going to change it. I know there's a lot of things going on right now where they're working with the old code and things like that, but man, you get to the point where you don't want to hear, oh, the code is old. Like, you guys make hundreds of thousands of dollars off this game. You should be pretty incentivized to sit down and fix that old code if it means you get to continue making hundreds of thousands of dollars off of this game. It's your job at the end of the day. And whether they've lost the passion for the project or not, I guess is up to them, and it's not for me to be able to go ahead and judge that. But I think Snowy made a great point that maybe it's time they hire another developer. I get this was a passion project from them, and they made it as friends, and it blew up to something that they probably never expected it to be. But at the end of the day, it's a business, and you guys are making income, and you would like to continue making that income, I'd assume, and you would like to see your game, your passion project, continue to thrive. Why not get some extra help? I don't know how much work is being done. Like, I know for a while there, they were stepping away from PF to start working on core. Now they've basically made, to my understanding, a pretty hard jump back to just PF, and then the core project is now being kind of sidelined. So I feel like they're trying to juggle too much at once, and they're not really making as much progress on either of these as they would like. And that's kind of rough for the player base all around. And like I said, I know it's easy for me to come up here and make my complaints and voice my opinion because I don't do their job. And I understand that it's probably much, much more difficult than I make it out to be, or the complaints that I bring up. But at the end of the day, I still would much rather have a more developed game. I would much rather have an extra developer working on these things and trying to fix this old code, rather than us kind of waiting months and months and months for an update, just for the update to be either forgotten, not cared about, or so buggy that it ends up losing players until the fixes happen. Just my opinion. Also, don't know why Dust Bowl's back in the game. Please remove that. Anyways, thank you guys so much for watching. I thought I would just, hop in and voice my concerns as I usually do, and I'll see you guys in the next one. Peace out.